Hey, what is going on, everybody? Boilon here and back for another video on Marvel Strike Force. Now, today we're here to talk about something that has, I want to say, recently become an issue for me. Honestly, something that I didn't even notice until it creeped up on me yesterday, when I started upgrading some of my Hive Mind characters and realized how low my Bio Origin gear actually was. And I'm actually someone that hasn't really pumped too much gear into other bio characters, kind of outside of the existing meta. So it's a little bit surprising to me how low I actually got. And so in today's video, I want to talk about all of the ways that you should be careful about what you're upgrading and things in general, but where you can get more of this stuff. Because let me tell you, you're going to need a lot. Now, we may not necessarily be building Hive Mind to G18 for all of the characters. However, we are kind of, in a new, I want to call it a progression meta, because I think the expectation going forward, especially with level 100 and G19 on the horizon, is that we're going to probably need to do this on some of them. So anyways, more of that and more in today's video. So if you're ready to go, let's boil this down. Now, first off, I just want to go over my roster a little bit and let people know kind of like what have I been up to. So in case, I don't know how often my roster gets shown in my videos, but I just wanted to share with you like kind of what's going on right now. And so I did unlock Void Knight early. I think this was kind of known. I did this. Yes, I did unlock Void Knight early, and I did upgrade him eventually to G18. So that this was more recent over the last like 2 or 3 days because of all the alien spores that we've been picking up through the supply store. I've been buying 3 alien spores per 8 hours, so the initial and then 2 refreshes every single 8 hours. I'm still doing it until it goes away, I think on Wednesday or sometime. And so this has allowed me to pick up more alien spores to be able to upgrade my characters. So I took Void Knight to G18. I originally took Venom to 18. I think some of you might have already known that because I used him to beat Escape from Kiln. And then just tonight or the other day, I had taken Carnage to G16. And that's kind of where I'm at for my alien spores. Now, as far as, other characters, we still have Gwenom and we still have Red Goblin as far as Hive Mind goes. Now, we know that Gwenom is not an alien spore character. However, she's a bio character. Red Goblin, we don't know if he's an alien spore character, but, that's something to keep in mind as well. That being said, as I started upgrading my characters, I just thought to myself, like, do I have enough origin gear? And so a really handy resource that I'm sure a lot of you guys use already is the DD6 planner. And so I plugged in Carnage, what's left of Carnage anyways, Gwenom, and Spider-Woman. Now, the reason why I plugged Spider-Woman in is because I think she's like gear 14 for me. And so I wanted to see how much teal gear I would need for G18. She requires 3 pieces, so 66, 66. And she's basically simulating what Red Goblin might be. Now, Red Goblin could be a little bit more expensive. He's probably not going to be less expensive. So this is kind of give me an average ballpark of the kind of bio gear that I'm missing. Now, alien spores aside, because, that's going to be a problem for a lot of us. G18 minis aside, because obviously that's also going to be a problem for even the best of us. I'm still, if I wanted to upgrade all 3 of these characters, I would need about 200 or so more bio G18s, which I don't have because I'm not constantly buying the Strike Pass. But the other things that surprised me was the origin gear. There is catalyst as well, so we'll take a quick look at that anyways, is the health catalyst. So this is 1740 for these 3 characters, and I have about 2400 right now. So what I've been doing over the last handful of months, and something that I mentioned in previous videos, is using the showcase event to farm catalysts. I'm not doing that in this one right now for the Hive Mind, though, and I'm going to show you what I am doing instead. But I just wanted to share with you my strategies, because I believe me, it might have been a month or so ago, I did mention that this is a high priority, especially teal catalysts. So teal health and focus are some of the most overused. Now, for whatever reason, I have a lot more focus than I do have on health now. I have about 3,800 focus to 2,400 health. So pretty significant difference right there. So I'm going to really need to make sure that I'm on top of the health ones these days, because I'm consuming a lot more of this. I don't know if that's because the Hive Mind characters require, maybe their unique uses health, and so therefore I'm consuming a lot more health gear than I would normally. But anyways, that's usually the case, is these 2 main ones here. There's also the teal ABCs, or teal basic catalyst parts, and I have 9,300. I need 4,300 just for these three characters. And so I'm okay for now, but it's not going to leave a lot of room for upgrading a lot of other characters down the line unless this kind of like I'm net positive or something, right? Like I'm keeping ahead. So this is something that you want to keep in the back of your mind. But let's talk about the teal origin. So I need 2,900 teal phosphates. I have 850, so I am down about 2,000 and 2,000 ish, right, of the phosphates. I'm down 1,200 of the MRIs and about 570 of the isomers. This one's not too bad, but it just goes to show how many you need for these characters. I need 3,500 for these three characters to hit G18. That's absolutely insane, if you ask me. And especially the other ones are pretty bad too. 2,300 of these, 2,900 of the phosphates. That is no small. That's not a joke, right? Like that's no small feat. So let's take a look at this. So what I have decided to do is, and I kind of thought about this, very early on in the showcase for the Symbiotic Collective. And every single day, I am in the challenge mode. I am in here farming, particularly now. Once everyone starts unlocking Void Knight, I recommend farming this one here, which is challenge 1.5, because it gives you isomers and the phosphates. So if you're in an issue like me, I need more phosphates than any other origin piece. Start off by doing this. Do this when you can. And then there's also this one here, challenge 1.4 and 1.3. So this one gives MRIs and isomers. This one gives both MRIs and phosphates. So this is the main one, 1.4. I would do this first and then do 1.5 because phosphates, and then 1.3. I would do these three nodes, or try to do as much of this as you can. I think you can do like 2.5 of these in one day without actually refreshing. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to do an energy refresh on this. I'm going to farm. I don't have 4. I'm going to do this one. I'm going to do it 10 times just to show you the kind of the drop rate that kind of ranges there. So you're getting like 18 of this and 24 of that. That's pretty good, actually, because if you're doing this like every single day, and this event has been around for, or it would have been around for, I think it was like 35 days, something like that in total. So if you like say on average, I've gotten as high as 30, 36, honestly, because they're in drops of 6. So every time you get a hit or a ping, you're getting 6 of them. And so I got 24, so 4 pings here and 3 pings here. And so I've gotten like anywhere from 24 to like 36 per day. So I'm going to take 30 because I think that's a decent average. Multiply that by 35, and we're getting like 1,000 of these origin pieces over the course of the month. If you were to farm this every single day. Now, like I said, in previous showcase events, I was actually farming the catalyst. So usually this is not too bad to farm either. This one's actually a great node because it has health and focus catalyst. So if this happens to be a bigger problem for you than the teal origin gear, teal bio gear, then I would do this one too here. The drop rates are actually pretty good. Normally, in previous showcase events, you're actually farming story mode. Like, usually that's where everyone does their farming, but they only actually have teal gear for, like, the last story mode. Luckily, challenge, though, was accessible for people who did have just Carnage and Venom. That was the first 4 nodes here, and I do have the other 4 unlocked because of Void Knight, but then things beyond. And it's not even that important because you don't even need to farm this stuff, right? Because now we're looking at like G16, 17 minis. Usually the drop rates on these are pretty horrible. So those aren't nodes that you want to focus on farming. What you want to focus on is this stuff, like this 1.3, 1.4, and 1.5. Now beyond that, what I did was, I went into my supply store, or I went into my roster and I bookmarked them. Why? Because there are other places that you can get them as well. But for me, it's primarily these two. It's the phosphates, it's the MRIs. Phosphates is a huge issue for me. So when you click that find button, what do you see? Well, you see some offers, obviously. These are in Canadian dollars, by the way. And I want to show you just how bad some of these are, honestly. Like 300 of these for 25 Canadian dollars or 130 Canadian dollars. The way that they're selling these origin packs is just absolutely insane. Obviously, you have some battle pass free to play. You have the challenges, and it's just not very fast. And the reason why I favorited it was so that I could find exactly what nodes actually gave it. So these are the 2 showcase events here, but you can also find them in just the regular nodes. There is usually 1 Nexus node, and this one's going to be next. Actually, there's 2 for the phosphates. So Nexus 2.4 and Nexus Hard 5.7 that give you a chance of dropping 3 of them. So what I've actually gone and done now is, instead of farming the gold orb nodes, which They've done a lot better in terms of the amount of gold that you're picking up on a monthly basis. That I don't really need it as much. Like I need this more than I need the gold ore fragments. So I've been farming these kind of origin nodes instead, the teal origin pieces. So particularly the phosphates, and of course the MRIs as well. I don't know if the MRI has two. I think it might just have one. Let's scroll to the back. In terms of the Nexus, because yeah, it only has one. So I really want to kind of just leverage this 3x drop, not the 2x or the 1x ones. You could do this if you're really desperate, but I would just stick to the 3x drops ones because I think it's a little bit better. And then, of course, making sure that you're doing the showcase event. Beyond that, though, of course, you can find this in places where you would normally pick up gear, right? Like the Crucible supplies. So if you're sitting on a good chunk of Crucible credits, I think the teal crucible orb is pretty garbage, and because you need to use that to buy character shards, I would be cautious about using it on that. I would also not buy it for gold in the supply store because I don't think that the turnaround is very good on that. I think that the value that you get for the gold, not worth it. Raid supplies is somewhere where I do consider buying it. I believe it's 10 for, I want to say 14,000, which doesn't sound great. But if you're someone who's doing like end game raids, you usually have like a stack of raid credits lined up, and of course the usual suspects, which is the raid orbs and the war supplies. I do not buy it out of war supplies. I usually end up buying uniques out of there, and yeah, I don't know why supplies is actually listed twice in here. But anyways, that's where I go to find my teal origin gear. You could. I would not right now with the century credits that you have left to spend. I would not buy it here. I've been primarily just buying uniques when they show up because I think that that's the best value still, despite how bad of an issue that focus, health catalysts, and origin pieces, at least bio, because you're going to be crunched and you're going to want to build this team. Like Hive Mind is going to be amazing. Like I think that a lot of the team, even though we don't know what Red Goblin does, and that pisses me off, I'll admit. But Extreme X-Men, as an example, is a raid team that's done really well for me so far. The Hive Mind that I have been able to use now, which is the 3 piece of Void Knight, Venom, and Carnage, I've actually had some really good value out of in Crucible Offense. Don't really have any videos on that quite yet. I have been using them, but there's something that I really want to try out with relation to certain counters. That's why I haven't shown it off yet, because I haven't actually been willing to crash my Crucible for science yet, but I may do that this week. Because if it loses and it doesn't do exactly what I wanted to do, then I may end up losing my match, or I might lose my match anyways because the outcome wasn't as good as it could have been. So that's something that I'll be working on this week as well. But I just wanted to put this in people's head. I want people to be thinking about this because this is a team that's going to be over the next month still, right? We still have the free to play, the free to play Void Knight event, which is going on right now. We have the free to play Gwenom event, which is going to be a whole week next week. And then we have Red Goblin's event, which could be the week after, or there could be a delay in between the release of Red Goblin. Either way, there's a lot of bio going on. I also wanted to mention that so people don't go around blowing bio gear on other characters that they don't necessarily need to do. There are some characters in the game right now which I believe are kind of past this prime. I'm not going to talk about all of them necessarily. Basically, other than Super Skrull, which should be a high priority if you're going through Dark Dimension 6 still, obviously that's going to be worth it, right? But there are some characters that I would potentially avoid. And if I knew I was this bad, I think what caused some problems for me, I recently G18 Tigra, and if I knew I was this low on my bio gear, I might have reconsidered. So that was one thing that kind of put me in the crunch a little bit more than what I thought I was. I guess that was it. And the other characters, I'm very, very frugal when it comes to upgrading. So I would do the same. I would assess how much gear that you have in your possession. Use the Dark Dimension 6 roster check. Honestly, just throw a bunch of characters up of a certain origin, and it'll show you basically whether or not you can do that or not. Or, you can do mock testing like I did with Spider-Woman just to simulate Red Goblin and just to see how much gear that I was missing if I wanted to do an entire team. Now, the other statement is that obviously people are going to comment down below, well, Boilon, you don't need all these characters at gear at 18. And I want to say yes and no. Like, yes, you don't need that for everything, and it depends on what level you're playing this game at. But I think that, especially with level 100 and G19 around the corner, I think that G18 is going to be, I don't want to say required, but it's going to be something that you're going to probably need to do. The stat growth from G18 is so significant that the levels alone aren't going to make up for it. It's just that's how much stats that you get out of G18. And so I think that with potentially new raids coming in the not so distant future, and where I think you're probably going to need to have a lot of these character stats, especially the new characters when they're only sitting at like 3 or 4 star. I think that's going to be really important because I talked about Extreme X-Men and how necessary it was to say bring Nightcrawler up to G18 so that he could land his stuff. Things like that is going to be really important, and I think the same thing is going to ring true for the Hive Mind team. So I just kind of want to just let it percolate in people's minds. Think about, where your origin gear is sitting at and keep that in mind. Now, one thing I do want to mention really quickly is the end of the Symbiote of the Spaceways. I really hope that we can get here because there's a lot of very good origin gear in here, namely Milestone 17. Milestone 16, without a doubt, we're going to clear. Milestone 17 and 18, this really depends on the ISO 8 fragments that we're going to get from those 2 days of farming and also the 2 days of blitzing. So that's going to determine whether or not we're going to get this stuff, whether or not that's free to play accessible or not. 16 without a doubt will. And that's going to be really nice for the isomers if you still need them, and obviously the 15 teal spores and any of the stuff in the previous ones. Actually, you know what? I think they added teal alien spores because I don't remember seeing the 10. I remember seeing the 15 down here. I do not remember seeing the 10 up here. So that's new to me just now. But either way, that's good. That's a lot of teal alien spores. And if Red Goblin is spores, I'll be in a good position, hopefully. So that's going to be the end of this video, everyone. Let me know what you think. How is your supplies of gear? And until next time, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you all later. Boilon, signing out.